Let me level with you folks right up top. Code Violet is a bad game. If you saw tasteful, and sometimes not, screenshots and trailers of its beautiful brunette protagonist mixing it up with dinosaurs and felt compelled to pick this up just to ogle, no judgment, some judgment, but if you want something else from Code Violet, like a compelling story with interesting characters, or an engrossing crucible of tense and savvy action horror to conquer, then you've come to the wrong raptor-infested space station. The best it can give you is terrible third-person shooting, boring level design, and technical blunders that make stalking through this futuristic bloodbath feel prehistoric. Code Violet's story is unapologetically tropey science fiction, mixing far-future space colonization, genetic modification, and more to make this final girl survival story as impenetrable as possible.
Where am I?
Home.
Bits and pieces of the tale are interesting, but that's mostly limited to side stories and lore found in the journal entries of victims scattered among the wreckage. But almost everything you play through and watch in a cutscene form is derivative, awkwardly animated and acted, and forgettable. All the new and drastic revelations that should be monumental to the story at hand instead feel rushed and full of twists and turns that are either undercooked or entirely too convoluted. The very few characters you meet are barely more than one-note exposition dispensers who you'll watch our hero Violet worry and cry over and never really understand why.
God, no!
Violet herself is a hollow shell with no motivations outside of incredulously doing what other characters tell her to do. She's meant to fill a sort of Jill Valentine or Lara Croft archetype of tough gals that can think their way through most challenges and shoot their way through the rest. But while those two legends have agency and capability, Violet's own thoughts about the happenings around her seem absent from most interactions. She only feels particularly good at anything when I'm in the driver's seat, tiptoeing down hallways and filling dinosaurs full of lead. I played on a regular PlayStation 5 rather than a Pro, and at mid to far distances, a few parts of Code Violet really do look good. That's especially true in the more creatively designed areas like this. When you get up close, however, textures can get muddied and metallic surfaces reflect light in gaudy ways that seem off-putting for the grunge and grime that sometimes smear them. And most of the heavy metal walls you'll skulk down are uninspired sci-fi staples that Doom 3 pulled off far more effectively 20 years ago. There's occasional flair, like these statues that would look more at home in a medieval castle than a space base. One curious thing I did always stop to look at were the soda machines and various oil paintings that stick out like a sore thumb in this setting. Not because I found them to be particularly riveting, some were admittedly cool looking, but mostly because I couldn't stop trying to determine if they were AI generated or not. I'm no expert and the jury's still out on that, but it certainly gives off that vibe. Cool outdoor skyscapes hang over the rope-lined grassland you'll have to trudge through to get back from one building to another almost mockingly. The limited time you'll spend in those zones is transitory. They basically serve as long hallways with bundles of tall grass to crouch behind when enemies are on patrol. Maybe these sections were meant to serve as some reprieve from the dark, claustrophobic halls of the various facilities on this planet, but other than having a brighter color palette, they feel exactly the same to navigate through. Back indoors, rooms that might have something to investigate or shoot inside them are separated by long hallways with nothing to spice up the transition from one action zone to the other. This almost never changes across the handful of maps you'll explore, creating a predictable, slogging pace between rooms. Part of what makes games like Dead Space so tense is that any and every room feels like one you could be maimed in. In Code Violet, you can be reasonably sure that most of its rooms exist just to be walked through by you and nothing else. Straying off the path for extra items or upgrading materials was an effort often not worth the prize. It usually meant enduring the crumbling fossil of Code Violet's combat system for longer than necessary. Violet herself is agile, and even has a Resident Evil style backstepping dodge, which you'll use a lot to create space between yourself and incoming dinosaurs. In a straight up skirmish with these scaly foes, a well-timed dash back can really befuddle the raptors, shattering their simple game plan of running at you, taking a big swing, pausing, and then doing it again. There's limited space, so there's really only so much room you can backdash before hitting a wall and making yourself a much easier snack to catch. The camera will collide with these barriers far sooner than Violet will, rendering any encounter that doesn't take place in the dead center of a room completely unintelligible for as long as it takes for the camera to get refocused. Indoors, this was a frequent headache and lingered like a second, scarier jump scare waiting to pounce after a raptor burst out of the wall. The variety of these Jurassic jerks is a letdown, with large or small velociraptors and that poison-spitting guy from Jurassic Park making up the bulk of these non-boss foes. Each type has their own behaviors, but they are shallow and predictable. These dopes just run around and swipe at you until either you or it are dead. These are usually in packs and make a conga line towards you, taking a swipe before running away, only to immediately turn around and do it all over again. Spitters just kind of stand in one place and shoot, opting to close the distance only when you do so first. Any challenge I got from these mouthy menaces came from how erratic and stupid they could be, often getting caught on the environment while attempting to reach me, or disengaging once I simply walked the other direction. Their bullet-spongy, stun-resistant nature also means that they can just run up and take a bite out of you before they die, not quite becoming a danger, but definitely becoming an annoyance since any hit from them could potentially cause you to bleed, which can kill you if you don't treat it in time. This is all true for the remarkably few boss fights as well, which almost nothing about the strategy of walking backwards, dodging on time, and then countering with a face full of lead has to change. But at the same time, all these lazy lizards have a sort of supernatural omniscience, because even when you make your best attempts to sneak into or around a room, there's a great chance they already know you're there, and they're on their way to kill you. On top of that, so many encounters involve you opening a door to see dinosaurs staring directly at you, or are scripted events where they have the drop on you, so there aren't many attempts to stay quiet to begin with. Unless you're using the glass veil function of Violet's suit, which can render you sometimes comically invisible for a short period of time, stealth is a large waste of time in most areas. The real enemy are the myriad of bugs that can't wait to bite and peck at your progress. Sometimes the sound mix will run off the rails, or a very important skybox, one that might hold valuable information about a puzzle, simply won't load. Weapons sometimes display the wrong ammo counts, or just disappear from your inventory altogether, which I guess is a fair trade for the fact that every item I used directly out of my storage box didn't actually expend it in the review build we were provided, meaning I could always heal to full in any safe room I made it to. Code Violet is not the Dino Crisis successor you may have hoped for. It doesn't even clear the bar of being a successful clone of the various other third-person shooters it cribs most of its ideas from. Its dated map layouts and visual style let its predecessors down. The only weight I felt from its convoluted story and flat, empty characters were on my eyelids. Its anemic host of enemies are dull, and far more scary are the amount of bugs that were in this review build that, though a priority on developer TeamKill Media's list of fixes, hit Code Violet's balance and pacing like a life-ending comet from outer space. If you want to read about some better shooting experiences, why don't you try our reviews of Routine or Terminator 2D No Fate? And for everything else in the world of video games, stick with IGN.